We are not in the shop in Canterbury, New Hampshire tonight, but we went on an amazing tour on our field trip to, where were we? West Haven, Connecticut, to see an unbelievable furniture collection. And we want to share some of those highlights with you. Stick around. All right, welcome to our undisclosed location at an Airbnb somewhere in the vicinity of Hartford, Connecticut. We just had an amazing day. We got off early, drove, what was that, 3.5 hours or so, down to West Haven, Connecticut from Canterbury, New Hampshire, the camera lady and I.
Yes.
And we went to see this incredible collection called the Yale Furniture Study. And it's located in a beautiful building, which used to be the Bayer factory, where they made all kinds of...
Oh, B-A-Y-E-R.
Yeah.
Aspirin.
Yeah. So they made a lot of aspirins in this factory.
And we should mention, too, we doubled this up with a trip to this direction because we wanted to go to the Fine Woodworking New England experience tomorrow. So
Right. We'll be there tomorrow.
We'll be there for a day. We're not doing any Tom's not presenting. We're going to be
enjoying it. Just hang out and be able to walk around and talk to a lot of people. So excited for that. Yeah. So if you're in the neighborhood of Manchester, Connecticut, shout out to Bob Van Dyke and the Connecticut Valley School of Woodworking.
Yes.
They're hosting it. Great school if you're in this area.
Lots of great names. We are going to be presenting. If you are curious, Google it. I'm sure they've still got opportunities for people to come, workshops and things.
So it'll be a lot of fun. So come on by and see us if you're there. All right, well, let's get to it. The real gem of the day. We went there to West Haven, Connecticut, and we were hosted by Eric Litke, who's the museum assistant and very, very knowledgeable about furniture, and had a wonderful time. He spent a large amount of time just walking us around, and I got to tell you, just before we started looking at it, it was overwhelming. As I said in the description, it was like drinking from a fire hose. It was
pleasantly.
Yeah, but it's good to get out of the shop sometimes and see art, right? See furniture art, because it's inspiring in so many ways. And this 18th century furniture is near and dear to my heart because it's where I started in furniture making. And I think you can learn so much about, composition, form, technique, materials, joinery, on and on. And it was all there in all kinds. And we're just gonna scratch the surface, try to show some of the highlights. But the cool thing about this place is it's open to the public. You do have to make an appointment to see the collection, but it's open to you. There's also tours. I'm almost certain they're free tours.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're scheduled tours, so check it out. Just Google Yale Furniture Study.
I actually put the link in the description, so you can go there.
Of course you did. All right, so that's what you want to do. You want to check out this collection. If you get charged to see it and if you're nearby, it's well worth your time.
And we should also mention, sorry, I'm interrupting you, that we weren't allowed to take video of the inside.
Not yet.
We did take photos, so just...
Yeah, this is an initial visit. What I was planning on doing was just kind of scanning, getting ideas for future pieces we could reproduce and share in the neighborhood or as a project. So while you're seeing this, I am curious if there's a particular style of furniture that you'd be interested in seeing made. And who knows, maybe it would be one that we would tackle as one of the projects. So anyway, we've got just a little kind of a slideshow put together. You want me to come over there?
Yeah, why don't you come over?
Okay. All right.
So
this is where outside we're just looking at the outside of the building. That's the official name of it. The donor was Francis P. Garvin donated the large amount of all the furniture. He collected, well, there we are walking in with Eric Litke. And now we're in, are you doing this? And now we're in the,
Yep.
this is, let's just pause it there for a second. You got it?
Yep.
So this is what you're greeted with when you first walk through the doors. You know, you walk in, look to your left, and there you have like these corridors or aisles of piece after piece, and they're so beautifully arranged, you know, to period and style. And what else is they're actually all on these very nice pallets. You can't tell that they're pallets, they're platforms, but they're off the floor enough. Eric told me that he can come by with a pallet jack and just lift anything and wheel it out for you to get a better look at and study it. You know, so it's incredible. They're like polished concrete floors. They were all once linoleum, I think, but now it's just a gorgeous setting. And the lighting, I should say something about that first. It's all LED, like daylight lighting above, which is beautiful because you're seeing the real color of everything. But it was a little tough to take some of the photos. So some of them will have a little glare on them, but it is well lit for you to see everything in beautiful form. So that's the front look, and we're looking at a couple secretaries there. The one on the left there is, I believe it was made by Benjamin Frothingham. I'm trying to remember the right name. Yeah, I think that's right. In Massachusetts, New England. You're going to have to check the study out to confirm that. Everything I say, in fact, tonight.
Not everything.
No.
There's a lot of information today.
I don't know. I just make it up. That's what that's got me by pretty
Not
well.
true.
So, all right. Yeah. So here we are. I'm looking at actually a bill of sale. Eric Litke said this secretary that was right there on the front, this federal secretary, is unusual because it still has a copy of the bill of sale with it. And this is the actual copy. And you can see the secretary is that top line. To one secretary, $50. This was April 13th, 1814. And then check right below that, to one card table, $14. And then a light stand, $5. So you can just imagine, I mean,
That's crazy.
exquisite pieces. I mean, that, of course, if you stretch out and get today's dollars, it's probably pretty good. I wonder what it would be. Somebody can do the math. Look that up. 14, $50. What's the current day value?
There you go.
Of course, they weren't paying taxes back then. All right, let's go.
Okay.
So what I liked about this was actually when you walk right in the door, this is actually what you see. It's on the right-hand side, just a huge cabinet full of all traditional tools and a beautiful traditional woodworking bench. Heavy, reminds little of our bench that we made, but it's a little even more stout, that base. But it does have the tool tray, has a tail vise that is integrated in it, and so you can use all the bench dogs and all that. And then there is a leg vise on the other side that had another like metalworking vise attached to the top. But why that's important to be there is Eric told me that it's symbolic of the fact that all these pieces in the collection were made in this way, by hand primarily. The collector, Francis P. Garvin, who donated, and they collected over like 10,000 American objects from that period. You know, it could have been pewter, silver, ironwork, glassware, ceramic, but the woodworking collection that he donated comprises largely this whole exhibit. There's about 1,300 pieces to see in this exhibit. But his collection ranged from 1650 to 1830, which is considered roughly the golden age of furniture making. 18th century, in the heart of 18th century there with a little on either side. So that was the period where they were making things by hand. So it would have been at workbenches like this. So it's pretty symbolic of what you're about to see.
Now, are we looking at things that are mainly from the New England area, or do they cover other areas like Virginia, Pennsylvania? Do you know?
Yeah, they went up, but let's see. Dominated by the New England area. There was a lot of Baltimore sideboards in there that you'll see. But that was the primary area. It was the seacoast cities, because those were where the shipping trade was bringing the most money in, and you could have the finest things were being made in the port cities. So you started up in Portsmouth and then down through Boston, Salem, Newport, and then down the coast through New York, and I'm forgetting, Philadelphia, Baltimore. Those are the big ones where all the great, collection is mainly from those and others in the region, yeah. There's another look at it. Looks well used. Look at that tool tray, huh? Went
It
with
reminded us of Pug Moore's.
It did.
There you go.
And then, as it was surprise, at the end of one of the corridors of the traditional work, there's our friend Sam Malouf's rocker is sitting there. So there are pieces have been added to the collection since Francis Garvin donated them, which, by the way, he died when he was 62. And try to imagine collecting that much furniture in that time. He was from East Hartford. He ended up going to Yale, so it was his alma mater who wanted to donate it back. And what a beautiful collection and treasure for people to come visit. So there are contemporary pieces as well, but this is looking down. We've got these, what are these, Queen Anne highboys, and most of these are from the Connecticut area in this little section here. They got beautiful carvings on the lower drawer, lots of fans.
That's like half the aisle.
Oh,
on
yeah.
one side.
Yeah, we zoomed in for this. We got a bunch of these infinity shots, like where you're looking down the aisle. It's overwhelming. I mean, we couldn't really take in one too heavily because it was so much. And here's just taking in one fan. You could do a little study of a fan like that, and his beautiful job. We've done something like that in Shop Night Live. We've talked about one. Mm-hmm. I've made Queen Anne highboys with that. It's fun to do. There's looking down the rest of the aisle. This is actually a different section.
Just aisle after aisle.
Yeah. And then this little table, or desk, I guess you could think, you just can't really get your legs under there. That brought me such warm memories of my time with Pug Moore, because we made a couple desks that were similar to that. They were longer and had I remember making a desk with drawer layout like that, but imagine if it was stretched out and you had a little more like a thinner, almost a pencil drawer across the middle. It was almost identical to that. And with those beautiful swan pulls and the ribbon mahogany running across the drawer fronts. That's the other thing. When you're going through here, you're seeing the best of the best mahogany on many of these pieces. And this one had a really rich color and detail. That might be a fun type of thing to do, a desk that had that motif. Beautiful beads wrapping the apron or under the rail.
Yeah, and they had them all, as you can see, grouped by the type of piece. I have a question here before we go on. Does the study indicate the primary and secondary woods and hardware sources at the time?
Yeah, actually, that's the other great thing. I don't have this complete, but see those tags hanging from everything? They're probably a little annoying. They're a little annoying visually on some of them. I wish I could get them out of the way. It looks like they're price tags, but those are actually information tags. They have the maker, the date, the materials, and there's even a barcode on there that scans to get to more information on the piece. So it's incredibly well documented and cataloged, but to get more of that, you'll have to see. But yeah, so it's all there.
Yeah.
I took photographs of a number of the tags to remember, but I didn't share any here. Here's a closer up. Look at the warmth and age of that mahogany. That's just the classic bale pull that we put on a number of pieces with Pug. Here's another. These are all Queen Anne and Chippendale lowboys, you know, with another beautiful carvings, these pinwheel-like carvings below on the front apron and drawer fronts. It just, oh, and this is the John Townsend highboy. That's really a treasure there. This is looking at the bonnet top, and then the bottom section. You're there, like with a John Townsend. This was actually labeled, I think this one, Eric told me, was labeled 1759. So quite early, but gorgeous. That little block front that I mentioned, as some of you know about, was also a labeled piece by John Townsend. It was 1765.
Yes, as a question, could you handle them? Dean's asking. I was surprised how much he allowed you to touch the
I
pieces.
I didn't touch much. I realized I didn't. I felt like I was too respectful of it. I didn't take really any liberties to touch anything.
Well, there were occasions where he wanted you to feel the weight of certain
Yeah,
woods.
he would invite me to, like, hey, feel how heavy this is.
Yeah.
So you know what? When it is a study thing, so there are, you can touch some things, but I think there are probably some guidelines. There may be some gloves. Like there were some signs like don't touch these brasses because your oils on your fingers can discolor.
And they do something. I mean, it was a very controlled, I felt, environment. Temperature, humidity,
Yeah.
light. Yeah.
Oh, sure. That will be for sure.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah. And so you have this John Townsend. Look at that beautiful pierced undercut talon. That's the signature Newport ball and claw. And then right next to it was a study cabinet that had the drawers out and of the same period, so you can look at some interior construction. You can see how that sliding dovetail divider goes in. Here it is with the drawers out. It was from the school, but not a Townsend piece. You see how they're not all made exactly the same, but you do get a sense. And then to look down into the corners, you have that quarter column on this piece too. So beautifully done. I mean, you can really examine and study, and you could probably even trace off the profiles of some of these moldings if you were careful. But that's the classic quarter column. You got 4 flutes, and when you sight them from the top, you can see that they're not dead straight. So they weren't made on a router. They were physically carved. And then, of course, you have the shell on the base of this one, beautifully carved. That's a study in art itself. And we almost made this one our thumbnail, but we didn't. But those brasses are amazing too. And this is looking down that aisle, so you can see right about midway the case that has no drawers in it. Like right next to it is a frame that has all the drawers supported. So there were a number of visual displays in there where they blew pieces apart or took them apart like that, and they would have everything like suspended on a very clever frame, so that you could examine the construction, the joinery, everything. It's just made to be so friendly and inviting for you to study and learn more. When you go just over to the right or further away from you from that one that has no doors, there's where the Townsend Highboy is.
I know that he gave us many names today, Tom, but do you remember who the main restoration craftsman there is? And we heard curators' names. We heard.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I can't remember either.
I didn't.
Okay, here we go.
Here's looking down, look at you getting, more into federal style with these bow fronts and serpentine. And someone asked about that concave. I should have asked about that because I've never, I don't recall seeing one of those, let alone making one. Usually the serpentine, they'll go in and they'll come out again.
I think they decided it's called a reverse bow front. Does that make
Is
sense?
that right?
I don't
Okay.
know.
No, I'll go along with that.
Yeah. Were there any notes about the information on the finishes spoken about today? Did he talk about that?
No, not a lot. No, we could just, it was heartbreaking. Some of the pieces you could tell had been refinished. So whenever you've watched Antiques Roadshow and they say, oh, this piece is worth, this piece is worth about 20,000. But if you hadn't refinished it and left the old gunk on there and the old patina, it'd been worth like 200,000.
Yeah.
And the person's heart sinks. Well, there's a number of those examples here where people have done that. And you can see so clearly the character gets totally ripped off it when you do that.
Crazy.
Now these are Baltimore sideboards. So you are down the coast, little beautiful inlays here. If you want to if you like inlay lines and fans and all that, this is an amazing study just to go down this aisle. I couldn't even spend like a minute there. It was too much. We didn't even go down there.
No, it was
And then there's a few clocks, right? Grandfather clocks, unbelievably beautiful detail variety. There's all types of clocks, but it was fun to see the Aaron Willard clock and
Benjamin.
they were New England makers. Actually, Benjamin is known to have made a number in Lexington. Now we moved upstairs. I didn't even show you everything downstairs, but this is what you're greeted with when you come up the stairs and turn to your left. There's all these drop leaf tables, dining tables, gate leg, ball and claw, just whole huge variety and beautiful planks of walnut, some mahogany, but that top right one.
Yeah, so many conversations about these periods of time being that kind of mahogany that you don't see anymore. Those certain.
Yeah.
I don't even understand it all, but.
Yeah, and then there's this little display that really brought me back to Pug Shop too. These poster beds, those posts. There's one in there, the second from the left, that looked like it came right off his wall. Actually, two of them looked like they were from his patterns that I have, and just really gorgeous. I wish I could have spent more time looking at that, but. And then there are these other displays here and there throughout the exhibit where you've got like details of just a carving thing. Like in the clock area, they showed how the workings of clocks were made, and then there's other but this is about carving, and you have these example legs to the right here. And Eric said they suspect that leg on the right, with that light, shallow carving there called intaglio, was famous for the Goddard and Townsend School there in Newport. That leg could have come from the shop. And he picked that up and he let me handle it. And it was very heavy, dense Cuban mahogany, I'm sure. It was just gorgeous.
Maybe just like half the leg, right? It was.
Yeah, well, just the ball was like broken off, but the back leg that looks just like a study foot. Like the way the block is at the top would have been a Newport piece as well, but everything about it is Newport, and all the beautiful carving tools and a fan there. So you can really get into technique and all that. So yeah, this is Eric's holding that, showing me the detail of the carving. And getting that depth right. That's very shallow carving, but you got to get it right. And then here's another look at those tables from the other vantage point. And we started walking around. On this floor, there's tables and chairs pretty much. But looking down here, we've got like various tavern tables and beautiful examples throughout periods. Now here's a more contemporary piece that's down in the corner. There's a number of gorgeous contemporary pieces that were really fun to see. Some makers that I've admired over the years, and to get up close and to inspect them. Some I couldn't get good lighting on to get photos of. I don't know the maker here. I forget. Maybe I did take a picture of that tag, but I didn't post the tag. There's another Maloof piece down in this area. This is Kristen Matson, I think her name is. These were made all around early 90s. I think it's 1990, but she was a really gifted maker. I love the texture used there. This is a Eames chair. One of the early ones, Eric was telling me, the way the upholstery was removable was indicative of that. And you've got this unbroken like rosewood veneer around that laminated base. So we are in the more contemporary, but that's an iconic modern lounge chair by Harold Eames. Looking down, wow, look at these chairs. I'm just overwhelmed at this point. You know, you're looking at all the, earlier, I guess.
This is toward the end.
But the Chippendale chairs in the foreground there, and then it just goes down, and they get more, I think, getting more Federal or Sheridan type, chairs down that way. But unbelievable variety. It would be so fun to pick one and just make it. This is looking from another aisle. This is not the same. And here you have some of those shield back Hepplewhite chairs and Sheridan style. And then look, our old friend Hans Wegner showed up. We had two chairs sitting there, Hans Wegner. So it's just, you feel like you're overdosing in this place because of all the periods and the significant makers are just right around the next corner. But it was great to be able to look closely at the finger joint on the crest rail in the back, and couldn't sit in it, unfortunately, but maybe if I went and studied, and who knows. Then under the rack here, inconspicuous, is a nice Stickley rocker. I mean, that would be fun. That had some good lines to it, and it looked like the patina on that was perfect. I mean, made in early 1900. And then over here, we had our other old friend, Wharton Eschrick, in that triangular chair with the woven leather straps. We saw a chair very similar to that in his home on the visit. Yes. Maybe that exact same. I forget what. Was that the axe-handled chair?
Yes, he was talking about the...
Okay. Then that really wild chair to the right with the yellow. Can you guess who made that? I wouldn't have guessed, but it was Frank Lloyd Wright. And I forget what collection that came out of our home, but Frank Lloyd Wright himself designed that chair. And then, I must have missed one. This is a detail of a Chinese, maybe it's coming. This is a detail of the crest rail of a Chinese chair made in the 1600s. And that, I took a shot of that because you can barely see it. But if you zoom in, that's actually 3 segments in that little shot. And it's joined together with these kind of interlocking scarf joints that are held together by a peg that's driven. You know, that intricate Chinese joinery. And this is the joint that Andrew Hunter was telling us about if you came to the Epic Weekends last fall. And he had some examples and show and tell of that. This is the actual armchair, or kind of, what is it? It's like a horseshoe back chair.
Yeah, and you also had a picture of this in your art on chair making presentation that you did when we were on our trip, Epic Adventure trip last year.
Yeah, it was inspiration to the Wegner chair. So yeah, it was an early, Hans Wegner was inspired by this style chair to make the chair, or the classic round chair. And then now we're looking down a whole nother aisle. This is not the same, of ball and claw, Chippendale chairs with all the various pierced backs. You can see, like New England, you have like this owl looking cutout. There was Philadelphia down that way. It was just on and on. There was some really sweet Queen Anne chairs on that other aisle that I would love to copy. Too many pieces, too little time, right? And then I barely got to walk around this because I was kind of dragging behind the others, and I just thought, oh, I better hurry through this area. But Windsor chairs, a huge variety of some of the most exquisite Windsor chairs and early like Pilgrim colonial furniture turned elements in all these chairs. So much to study. And then the last section we walked down in the same upstairs are all these card tables and pier tables, and most all of these flip open and a leg will swing back to support, but beautifully veneered. These were New England. I knew it when I looked at them. And then this is New York. This is a classic Duncan Fife example, but they are Duncan Fife pieces and they're right there. There's like half a dozen of them that are just exquisite and beautifully made. And you can, I don't know if I took a photo underneath, but I did take several photos underneath, so you can look at the way they joined it and the way they bricklayed. Some were bricklayed, some were sawn out of solid substrate behind the veneered apron. And then we finished up with these Pembroke tables, these gorgeous, sweet little tables, like nice for the end of a sofa, where you have this little bow front table and drawer coming out. But then it flips up to be, you've got two leaves. And they're usually decorated with like bellflowers, as you can see in that front. Lots of sweet like inlay, contrasting. And that was very popular in Baltimore area as well. But those were worn, just a whole selection of them. And then this is the last one, last shot of the, and this is really the classic kind of quintessential Connecticut piece made by Eliphalet. I never know how to pronounce his first name. It's Eliphalet Chapin. And that center cartouche of the pediment there, you may recognize. That's the model for the Cartouche Award that's given out every year by the SAFM, Society of American Period Furniture Makers, right? I got it.
Something like that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, so it's iconic. He was an amazing maker in the Connecticut area, and so you get to see that classic Eliphalet Chapin.
Do you know how that lattice work was made? Is it individual pieces joined together? Do you know, Tom?
No, it was sawn. What a question. We actually did a Shop Night Live. Some of you probably don't remember this, where I talked about that. And we actually did a little piercing. Yep. So it's pierced through like a solid piece. And so you're cutting out, and then you're cutting relief of the webbing. So it looks like one piece is diving under the other, and then you cover it the other way. You're shadowing. And we did a little trivet, actually, where we cut all the holes, and then we made it so it looked woven like that, almost like a netting.
I'll put a link to that in the description after we're done.
Yeah, I've never done that on Highboy though. It would be fun. I've always loved it. It's a great detail.
So Lupe's asking, was there a particular craftsman or shop that stood out for you, more exceptional work than others?
I'm always partial, Lupe, to the Townsend and what they did in Newport. I just love that so much. But it's so much. But I would say that of those pieces, some of the chairs were outstanding. You know, the Chippendale, and as I mentioned, the Queen Anne. And what else? In the contemporary category, there was a bench there that I got some photos of. I'll share it, but it didn't show great because it was white. The maker, if he had made it out of Bubinga, and it was this gorgeous, like arched work, and it was like 1990 Bubinga and through tenons, just really, really well done. And it had a like suede seat with piercings and cuts in the top, but he had milk painted it white over Bubinga and then lightly sanded. So it didn't photograph well against the white background, so I didn't share that, but it would have been too. You have to see that. That's worth seeing this study as well. So there's a lot of like contemporary pieces like that. And of course, you know I love the Wagner stuff, but that was production. Underneath, I took a photo, and it was made in Copenhagen, I think. Yeah, in a factory or something. But you know,
what a gift to be able to go there and then get to bring a little bit, tiny little bit of it to our friends here. Yeah,
it's a great place to visit. There are so many museums. If you can't get to this one, most museums have like an American furniture type collection of some sort, or period type furniture. So to see it pre-industrial revolution, when things started to get mass produced, you just can almost feel the spirit of the maker in it. You see the warmth of the wood and the patina of the age and everything, but you can just tell it wasn't just cranked out mass produced. It just has a character to it. And that's actually what I'm always trying to talk about too. Like, I know you're interested in that too, because when we make our own pieces, it's so enjoyable to use the hand tools in those detail areas to impress your fingerprints on it. You know, like James Krenoff's, I think one of his later books was called Leave Fingerprints. That's what it is. It's us as makers, you know, doing it by hand. Not everything has to be machine made, especially when you get to if you're only doing one or two of them, you're not going to set up a production line anyway. So you can make something really special, and maybe yours will be in a museum someday too.
Yeah, that was a thought. I think I said it out loud when we were walking around. Like, imagine just how many hands are represented in these rooms, these halls. It's crazy. And by the way, this exhibit is on the West Campus of Yale University, which is about 20 minutes, 10 miles maybe south of the actual university.
It's easy to get to. It's right off the highway. It's pretty close. It was quick and
They
easy.
moved there about 5 years ago. So
yeah, it's incredible. I know Bob Van Dyke has done a lot with them. He takes, in some of his classes, he takes students over there, and you look at some of the pieces, so they get to flip it upside down, so you can handle it,
Yeah, we heard a lot of familiar names. Al Breed has done some things. Steve Latta, am I saying that right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people involved.
Andrew Hunter,
yeah.
So
Peter Galbraith with the Windsor chairs and all that.
Follensby, yes, lots of folks.
Peter Follensby,
It's great.
Peter Galbraith. I say Galbraith. I don't know why I say Galbraith. Galbraith. Okay. Sorry, Peter.
All right.
All right, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It was so inspiring to go back in time, breathe a little, and move forward in the spirit of those great makers. Why not us? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. And also, if you're going to go over, if you're in the area tomorrow, once again, we're going to be over there at the Connecticut Valley School of Woodworking. They're having the Fine Woodworking of, what do they call that?
Fine Woodworking New England.
Yeah, so there's some demonstrations, there's some talks throughout the day. Lots of great demonstrations around the room. People you would know, you would love to see it. It's going to be a rainy day, so a great day to be inside, and lots of tools, I think,
and
to
great
collect
workshops.
as well.
Yeah,
lots of great stuff. So I think check online that you got to buy a ticket. It's not bad.
Not expensive.
But anyway, hope to see you there. Thanks again for being part of this. On behalf of the camera and myself, we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yes.
Right back here. We're in the Airbnb at Shop Night Live. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.